apologies if my voice is a little bit hoarse. I'm actually 4 days in on a hackathon in my office at the moment. If it goes really well, maybe come back and tell you about it, but at the moment it's a top secret thing. That as well as I've become a father recently, so I'm very sleep deprived. But I just want a quick introduction about myself. My name's Adam Flint, as mentioned, I'm a senior product manager. I've worked in and around digital development for about 8 years. I've worked at these places doing producty things. My exposure to WordPress, I have my own personal site, my own personal blog, which is okay, but the business of fashion actually is entirely built on WordPress, and that's my current role at the moment. I've been there for about a year, so it's been really interesting watching how we built this business from the ground up, using WordPress being our predominant use of content making and distribution. But what I want to talk to you about today is actually something that's been a theme that a lot of the other organisations I've worked at, which has really made my job annoying, and I know what makes probably development life a living hell. And it's a document called a roadmap. And the reason why I find it really annoying and why it's been a bit of a pain in my side over the last few years is because I kind of on the third month every year I seem to get pulled into a meeting where they go, right, these are the things we want to do, tell us how long it's going to take, we'll prioritise it and go do it. And I have to run around very quickly, putting people like yourselves into a room and trying to come up with some form of estimates and plan towards that. And the process was really, really annoying. I won't say where that particular document comes from, but it's something to do with believing better. What I really hated about these roadmaps was that the solution was already predefined. And that in these roadmaps, there was no mention about what the benefit for our users was or the goals we're trying to go after. And prior to this document, there was no validation against other ideas. Actually, chances are that was the list of ideas. We didn't go and explore other things, we didn't have time to. And they were estimated against without the scope being defined. And that was all signed off and locked in, and you must deliver. And if it changes, it's seen as failure. And that was something that really did wind me up in particular. So I'm trying to see what my next slide was. And I was thinking, how can I do this in a more effective way, and how can I move away from this? Now, I've stumbled upon good techniques just by trying and doing. And I was thinking, right, over my career to date so far, what has worked really well, and how do I get to those points? This is an example about products which failed, but it actually became something really cool at the end of it. So the election back in 2015, I was working at CNN at the time, and they said, right, we're going to build a coalition builder. The idea of this is that users can come onto our website, they can select the party manifesto points they like, build their own hung parliament, and they can see how it goes. Because we know for a fact it's going to be a hung parliament, and we're going to go build it. So we went and built it, and then the election happened, and the idea was we were launching this after the election so that it could be, everyone would be waking up, talking around the coffee coolers the next day saying, oh God, yeah, well, if I was building this hung parliament, this is how it looked. If anyone remembers what actually happened, it wasn't a hung parliament. So it turns out this product we invested time and effort and resource into, actually, it kind of lost its power. At the time, I was product manager for CNN International. That means you go on CNN.com outside of the US. That was basically the site that I worked closely with the editorial team on. And one of the business opportunities within the company in CNN was they were really focused on growing the CNN sports brand. And I was given that as an opportunity to say, find ways of how you can potentially grow that. Now, I had a product here which I knew wasn't going to be released, and I knew that I had a sports strand that we could potentially work with. Could we repurpose this quickly and get it out there and test with our users? Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir about the idea of releasing quickly and testing quickly, but how do I convince my stakeholders to allow this? Now, they'll never invest time and effort without me doing that whole 3-month process of roadmap improving from that perspective. But I was basically managed to get this under the radar of what we call BAU, or it's a small task, just a week, get it done. And I made this product called the Ultimate 11. This is for the Champions League final that was coming up very soon, to go build your Ultimate 11 out of the 2 teams that made it to the final, utilising the same tech from this. Basically, it's just drag and drop and put a load of data on the screen. We released it a week before the Champions League final. CNN, although it is a world leader in breaking news, I think it's fair to say that it's not exactly a world leader in delivering sports in terms of features and interactivity. This actually, unfortunately, sorry, the screenshot's really pixelated. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. There's a reason why, and it's quite a happy reason why. I had to find some really old screenshots of it. But this was released, you could build your team. It got picked up very quickly, it went very viral. Barcelona picked this up, who were playing the final against Bayern Munich that year. and tweeted it out saying, we think this is our Ultimate 11, and it was a collection of their players. Bayern Munich took it in return and done the same thing. It was great. My bosses pulled me into the room and said, well done, gave me a pat on the back and said it was a great product and great traffic. We've got sponsorship opportunities actually coming in to want to sponsor this. Could you iterate this? Now I had their attention. Now I said, look, we just tried something out there, we know it works, we want to iterate on that. The reason why this doesn't exist in this format anymore is the following year we rebuilt it up from scratch. We've got multi-million-pound sponsorship from a brand called MasterCard. And it kind of looked like this. It was based on the Champions League. Instead of just being the teams that made it to the final, it was actually the 16 teams that made up the knockout rounds the following year. And all of a sudden it went from being just this kind of hacky thing put together to this amazing system where you can see how much your team was worth, you can see how many goals they scored, you can see how many assists they got, you can edit your team, shout on Facebook. We got permission to use all the pictures and everything else. It was a successful product. We've done that because we just reused something really quickly. That was a great success in terms of we managed to take something, repurpose it, and move on from that. Now, that's a great example of what we use. Now, when has it not gone so well in terms of testing stuff? I'm going to talk about a project back when I worked at AOL called My Daily. It was a brand within AOL, which was a fashion website. Strangely enough, my career ended me back in fashion. But the idea was a vintage finder shop, an app that would find you vintage shops in your local area. We just went and done it because we thought, oh yeah, it's really great. We didn't speak to any users. We didn't realise that actually there's not that many vintage shops within a 10-mile radius of a person. And we put a request out on our website for vintage shops to basically be available on this app. We got 300 applicants through in the first week, and we said, yeah, fantastic, build it, launch it. Big bang, everyone was really, really happy. Turns out the app was pretty rubbish, because when you've only got a bank of 300 shops across the UK, when you actually pull out your app to go find your vintage shop, you have to walk for 10 miles to get there. And unfortunately, the app closed and the brand actually got sold. So you cannot find that app and you cannot find that website, unfortunately, for good reason. So my lessons from that particular experience was, let's actually validate what we're doing, find out if we actually got this concept of MVP is fantastic, but actually you've got to be relevant and you've got to actually make sure that the data you've got for your MVP is actually going to deliver not just a viable product, but something that people are actually going to use and like. I was working with Now TV last year actually, and I was given the task of finding out why our users were not engaging with the broadband products. And the conclusion I come to was that it is too complex. Has anyone used Now TV? Has anyone been on their website or purchased any products from them? It's a bit confusing if you want more than just a pass, I think it's fair to say. I came to them with a hypothesis. I said, look, if you give the users options, that's great, but if you can handhold them through that experience, you will get better conversions because actually you're pointing in the right direction. And they said, no, Adam, you've spent the last 3 months doing your roadmap as per the slide at the beginning, and no, basically. I said, well, once I can prove it. And they said, okay, fine, you've got a day. What can you do in a day? Well, I managed to get a developer just to quickly do a quick survey whenever anyone went on the homepage for broadband, just to ask a couple of basic questions and suggest a product for them. It wasn't particularly smart, to be honest. It served the same product regardless of what you selected, but I just wanted to prove the point of if you give people an option and actually help them and give them the ability to help decide and spam out for all the gump that's on that website, you will lead to better conversions. And I had the data to back that up. That did evolve into a new tool which they now use on Sky, and they use it across the whole thing where they're integrating with chatbot technology and everything else, but it all started from a hypothesis. So the things that went well for me is that I started with a problem or an opportunity. That I looked at my assumptions and I didn't just do on My Daily and just go and build it, I actually went and tested them. And I based that on my hypothesis. Now when you say the word test, I've noticed over the last couple of years, especially to more senior level executives, they go, yes, testing, I'm completely bought into that. I was at a talk at TED and someone was talking about it, it was absolutely fantastic. In fact, when I was at this event, there was people selling these tools that I could use to test things and move really back from that. And when I spoke to the person on the floor, he said, yes, you can do anything. We can build this test for you, it'll be fine. So I signed it, and now we've got to use it. and that's at one particular organisation. And we were using, and I'm not knocking the tools that are up there at all, they're absolutely fantastic. My point is that a tool is useless unless you actually know what you want to do with it and you're asking its right questions. And also using the right process. Now what I found is that when those sort of things happen in your company culture, you tend up to have loads of tests running at once, so you don't actually know what's going on. That actually, the whole point of testing is to do something quick and fast and nimble. And a lot of these tests will actually require a lot of development time, especially with particular A/B testing tools, where we basically build website 1, build website 2, and see which one goes in between. It wasn't particularly quick, it wasn't particularly cheap, and also, again, back to the point, we're testing solutions. I'll go back to that slide to begin with about things that really annoyed me about roadmaps, was that I was handed these documents that basically said, we are going to do this specific thing, not the problem you're going after, not the hypothesis that basis behind that. So, moving away from testing, that wasn't me just having a go at people, anyone who, if there is anyone here that sells A/B testing tools or anything like that, they are fantastic tools and they're used when used in the right way. As mentioned, I like to work in problems to opportunities that then go to hypotheses and then we can test that. Be quick, be small, be minimal. I think about one by one by one. What I mean by that is, if I was locked in a room for one day with one developer and one opportunity to prove something, what is the smallest version of that test? I'm going to say a concept. Have you heard of the concept of Wizard of Oz tests? So basically, the Wizard of Oz test is a design term, it's a design technique, and this does become more WordPress orientated, I promise. It's just that I like to set the scene for why this is important. Wizard of Oz test is basically just showing the promise of a feature, or promise of a product, or just asking a question. I didn't realise, I actually stumbled upon a Wizard of Oz technique when I was working at Sky of Now TV. I just put the idea of, oh okay, if I could help you with the opportunity to select your product, would that actually help you? Now, sometimes these Wizard of Oz tests would be fantastic, it would evolve into like a help you choose product, or I didn't realise I was actually building that ultimate lead generator for CNN at the time. But there's also times where I've done tons of Wizard of Oz tests where the end result was not what I wanted, which is fantastic. Proving something wrong is just as important as proving something right. It's kind of that fake it till you make it concept, so, or even just asking your users of, okay, we're building this product at the moment, would you be interested in, let's say you're building a community product and you want to build like a, okay. Everything alright? No? Okay. So the idea of Wizard of Oz test is basically you build a rudimentary, crude version of the thing you're trying to build. 9 out of 10 times it's very manual. I've had to be the person in the background using things like Typeform, Google Forms, or whatever, just to get information and put it into a database manually. If it means it proves a hypothesis. Obviously it needs to be scalable from there and be prepared to scale it if it's actually successful. But Wizard of Oz tests are actually very, very valuable. And if you can prove your hypotheses behind that, then senior managers do buy into this sort of thing. Sorry, it's just me talking about when I was there before. So, WordPress, thank you for that, Adam. What does that actually mean in terms of how it's helping you in your job now? WordPress I find is absolutely fantastic to run these proof of concepts very, very quickly. At my current role in the business of fashion, I've run several Wizard of Oz tests which has basically shaped my roadmap now for the next 12 months. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to go into specific details on them, but if you go on thebusinessofashion.com, you'll see how it's evolved over the last couple of months and how it continues to evolve. But, there you go, I got the plug in there. But, the whole concept and the things, if I could sort of summarise this up, is that when I was thinking about our tests and how we're moving forward, every ticket that was coming from the business saying, oh, here's a new feature, here's a new thing to do, can I integrate this into our process? So when we're doing our grooming now, we always ask the question, has this been tested? Has there something which we can do quickly right now which proves that this is valuable to do? When we do that and it actually works, then we'll go build it. But when it doesn't, it means that we've got validation to push back and say, no, we've managed to break this down to its core essence, and it's not something necessarily that is actually going to add value to that. And it means that instead of having a horrible spreadsheet, which I then have to go stand in front of very senior people and get shouted at every 3 months because it turns out the estimates weren't correct, I've try this actually. Next time you're pressured to do an estimate, for anything without giving scope. So that's fine under one condition. You have to refer to it, and I refer to it, and everyone you share this document with, as lies. And imagine your conversations with that going forward. Oh, have you got that 3-week lies you provided about the things I tried about the lies? Yeah, because I'm putting out my lies document that I'm then going to scale up to management. All of a sudden you realise that's what it really is. So why don't we just focus on the things that make sense? Why don't we focus on the things which are the right problems, the right opportunities, and test those assumptions? And basically, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got really in terms of experiences about testing and how I'm trying to evolve that in my process. I don't ever claim to be an expert in this, but there's been some great opportunities that I've had that I've managed to take into other things now.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions at all? Yes.
How do you manage keeping a record of the tests that you run and failed in the past? Because successful tests will get back to the product there. But if you're running this as a methodology over several years, it's easy to kind of start from the beginning and figure out all the tests.
To your point, it's also really easy to be that sniper at the back that goes, "We've done that a year ago and it didn't work."
Yeah.
Things change and things move on very quickly. So, and also, I never want to work in an environment where we just let the data tell us what to do, because you'll end up with a website like eBay or something like that where it's basically just all data driven, there's no heart in it and there's no particular excitement from that. Apologies if anyone works at eBay, I'd love to have a chat with you about how your website works. But I think it's a barometer, it should just give you an indication. Now, there's been times where the data has told me from a Wizard of Oz test or just doing some form of quick experiment that people might not like this particular thing, and you're going to have to take a risk on that. And I have taken risks and it's paid off, and I've taken risks and it's failed. The idea is it's just validation to help to communicate around us. To your point of how do we keep it all updated, I try and keep it all in one centralised place and keep it very simple. This is the thing that I believe would happen. This is the thing that I test, the test that was run. This is how it was before, this is how it was after. And it's anyone reading that can make up their own mind from there.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions at all? Let's see here. Yeah.
You mentioned tools. Are there any tools that you do actually use on a regular basis for these quick pre-solution tests?
So I think that there's tons of tools out there. There's loads of plugins for WordPress you can use. I personally believe that you don't necessarily need to get to the tool stage straight away. You can boil everything down to a basic test. It could be just as basic as asking your users, would you use this? Would you actually like it? Or give them that Wizard of Oz test of doing a nice mock of your theme, just a few CTAs, that as long as you get your wording right, and this is where you get really clever with your copywriters, or just, it's 9 out of 10 times that is you as well, when you just need to make sure that A, you're not lying, but B, that you're leading into a promise. Almost like it's an open beta. You can just say, look, we've got this idea, we want to try this concept with you as a valued member. Monzo, has everyone got Monzo, the card, right? How many people in this room were part of the top 7% selected to try out this product? Because I was. And I felt so special. Turns out there wasn't a top 7%, everyone was offered that. But it meant that we all tried it, we all tested it, we all fed back very quickly. And now it's one of the leading products out there. In 18 months. In 18 months' time, so 18 months ago, they were nothing really, no one barely knew of them. Obviously in the financial world, I'm sure they were very popular, but Joe Public on the street didn't know about them. It's because they'd done a Wizard of Oz test, that's a great example of it. Selecting people and just saying, hey, you're really, really important, can you try this product for us? And give us some feedback on that, and they've evolved into an amazing product now. So you don't have to necessarily get to a point where, because let's say you find a tool, you embed it in your organisation, you learn how to use it. How long will that take? It take months. But if you can boil your idea down to just a basic idea, a basic just sentence, that you go, right, if I had one day and one developer and one opportunity to do this, what would that one thing be? And how would we do that? How would we get that out the door in a way which doesn't damage your brand, obviously, and isn't lying?
Brilliant. Thank you very much.